Stampers, Kim from Stamping Imperfection. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am playing with a new stamp set called Vertical Greetings from Maker Forte. And you can see it's got a gorgeous snowflake image, it's got a beautiful tree image filled with Christmas words, and this great silhouette stamp at the bottom. And that's the one I want to play with today because I haven't played with that yet. I also haven't played with those vertical greetings, so I'm going to use those vertical greetings and just give you one idea of how I plan to use them. So I want to ink blend a pretty background with that silhouette stamp. So I'm starting with my mustard seed at the bottom. I've cut this panel down to 3 3/4 by 5. I measured the widest part of that silhouette stamp and it was 5 inches. So I'm going to make a horizontal card, a top, like it'll be a side fold card, and I don't usually make those anymore. I always make vertical cards for some reason, but I'm going to make a horizontal one. So I put down some seedless preserves, and then I'm just going back and forth between my two blender brushes until I get a nice smooth blend between the two and get rid of the harsh line. As it dries, that line will also go away, so just keep that in mind as you're doing it. But I try to like smooth it out. Up close, that looks like it's perfectly blended. And I'm using Blueprint Sketch here to do the top part of the sky, and again I'm blending back and forth now between the seedless preserves and the Blueprint Sketch to get a nice blend and make sure I don't have any harsh lines. I'm using Bristol paper though, and I really love Bristol paper for blending. It's Bristol smooth paper, like it's an ultra smooth paper, so it really is perfect for blending. For my night skies lately, I've been really enjoying adding a little bit of black soot around the edges. Sometimes I add chipped sapphire, but lately, for whatever reason, I've been kind of drawn to the darker look that I get. It almost feels a little moodier when I add that black soot, and I guess that's just been appealing to me. So I added just a little bit and again blended back and forth between the black and the blue. So I'm going to spritz this and I let it sit for a few seconds and then blot it up with my microfiber cloth because you want to give that water a little time to react. So you get those big spots by actually giving it time. And I've been using one of the big Maker Forte Mr. Perfect Mr. bottles filled with water, and I actually really like that bottle. I love that it holds so much water because I don't have a sink anywhere near me in my craft room here, so it's actually really nice to have a giant bottle of water. So I stamped my silhouette image in Maker Forte's Eclipse black ink, and I always do condition my stamps before I use them, especially these big silhouette images. And I generally tend to stamp them twice, but I'm still going to have a few spots that don't quite get inked up. So I actually have a little trick for that. And I have recently re-inked my Eclipse black, like just a couple days ago I re-inked it, but I still have a couple spots that were a little splotchy. So my secret weapon is the Copic marker that's number 110. It's called Special Black, and it perfectly matches the Eclipse black ink, and I just always touch things up with that, so I really like that. So for like $5 you can have a black marker to touch up any spots that you're being fussy about. So I love the way that turned out. I'm going to put that aside because that ink, since I just re-inked it, is staying wet for a really long time. So I cut a card base at 5.5 by 8.5. I scored and folded it at 4 1/4. Now I'm putting a black panel down, and that black panel is cut at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And I have a panel, and that's Eclipse black cardstock from Maker Forte. This is the Dr. Blue from Maker Forte, this cardstock, and I cut that down to 4 by 5 1/4. So I used liquid glue for the card layers, and I popped that top panel that I stamped and ink blended up on foam. And then I just need to work on my sentiments, and of course I'm going to add some crown jewel gems. So I'm going to make it say Happy Christmas, and I decided that I kind of want to make a couple of flags along the side. And I felt like dark cardstock would be too dark. I don't know why. I just felt like I wanted to make these white with black letters. So I pulled out a piece of white scrap cardstock that I have left over, and I just went ahead and lined up my two vertical images. And I'm going to go ahead and stamp those with my Eclipse black ink. Now you do want to, these are pretty tiny letters, so you don't want to put a lot of pressure on them. You don't want to like smush the ink into places, into the inside parts of the letters. So you want to actually just gently, it's better to stamp it twice than to, you know, really put a lot of pressure there. So I'm using my trimmer. I'm just trimming it down really close to each of the letters. And I decided I would actually trim the bottom of each of those little flags off on a diagonal, and I want to make the tops flat. So I just trimmed down underneath the last letter. And once I did the first one, I put it above I put the last letter of the first sentiment strip down on top of the second one, so the bottom letters were lined up, and I used it as a template to cut the diagonal of the second one so that both of them have the same slants to them. And then I'm just adding some really thin, I have this really thin foam tape that is, it has adhesive on both sides, and I'm just trimming a piece of that down, and it fits perfectly on these little images. And I'm just going to attach them, and I'm hanging them off the top. So I'm lining it up with the sides, and I do fuss with this a little bit to get it perfectly straight. And once I have it straight, I just take my paper snips and trim it right along the edge of that top stamped piece, and it's like I have two little banners there, and I actually like the way that looks. So I'll add 3 gold crown jewel gems. These are the solar flare ones. I like them on the night skies because they kind of look like stars. Between the spots and the crown jewel gems, I think you get a feeling that there are stars in the sky, hopefully. Or that it's snowing. Maybe that's the feeling that you get. You can add some white splatter if you want to. I usually use white gouache. I did not add that to this card, but you certainly could. And there are splatter stamps in the Maker Forte store. If you aren't brave enough to actually splatter it, you can actually get the stamp, and that will take care of it for you. So I'll put links to everything below. I would love it if you give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel if you're not already subscribed. Make sure you click on some of those links to check out some of the goodies in the Maker Forte store. And I thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoy this card. Isn't that pretty? I love the night sky ones, and I love the silhouette stamps. Sometimes you don't want to spend a whole bunch of time coloring something in, and these are just perfection. So thank you so much for watching, friends. Have a wonderful day.